Good evening. I'm John Dickerson. Maurice Dubois is on assignment. The war between Russia and Ukraine has dragged on for more than 3.5 years now. Ukraine's president went to the White House today to ask for weapons to keep fighting it. President Trump, emboldened by the peace deal in the Middle East, talked optimistically about finally ending it. Nancy Cordes is at the White House. Nancy?
John, at one point today, President Trump said he might be able to mediate an end to this war within a couple of weeks. But then he urged the countries to end it themselves. He also sent some mixed signals about his intentions when it comes to sending Ukraine the missiles it wants most. These long-range Tomahawk missiles were topic number one at President Trump's meeting today with Volodymyr Zelenskyy.
Tomahawks are a big deal.
The Ukrainian president offered a trade of sorts, Ukrainian-made drones in exchange for the U.S.-made Tomahawks, which are capable of striking up to 1,500 miles into Russian territory. Trump seemed open to it at first.
They make a very good drone.
But then he argued Ukraine might not even need new weapons if he can broker a swift end to the invasion.
I'm the mediator, President. Hopefully we'll be able to get the war over with without thinking about Tomahawks. I think we're fairly close to that.
It's a bold claim. The war has been raging for nearly 4 years, and Russian air attacks are on the rise.
We need ceasefire. Even now, you see in the Middle East, it's very difficult to hold ceasefire. Everywhere, in every war, it's very difficult. We want peace. Putin doesn't want. That's why we need pressure on him.
Trump said he'll apply that pressure when he holds another meeting with Russia's Vladimir Putin, this time in Budapest. Trump was asked if he's worried that Putin is only sitting down with him in order to buy time.
Yeah, I am, but, you know, I've been played all my life by the best of them, and I came out really well. I think that he wants to make a deal.
Despite all that talk of a deal, President Trump posted this message just a short time ago. He said both sides should simply stop the war where they are, claim victory, and let history decide. Zelenskyy said he's happy to accept a ceasefire along the current lines as long as it's followed by a negotiation over all the land that Russia has seized. John.
Nancy, you mentioned back on the Tomahawk missiles, you said the signals were mixed. Can you unmix them? Where do things stand now?
Unsurprisingly, John, it is unclear. Zelenskyy told reporters a short time ago that he and President Trump agreed not to talk about the missiles further in public to avoid escalating the situation. And President Trump has been dangling the possibility of sending these missiles for months, but it appears he hasn't yet made up his mind.
Nancy Cordes at the White House. Thank you, Nancy.
And welcome in. We start at the White House, where Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy met with President Trump this afternoon. Zelenskyy left the White House moments ago, so you can see a car that's going to be taking off. It is his third visit to the White House since the start of Trump's second term. Now, let's go to the meeting room, the cabinet room actually showing the focus defense weapons. There you go, as Ukraine is now 3 years into its war with Russia with no sign of de-escalation. Zelenskyy is pushing the White House for more advanced weapons like long-range Tomahawk missiles. A notable moment during this meeting is President Zelenskyy proposing a swap with the U.S., drones for Tomahawk missiles.
Ukraine has such thousands of our production drones, but we don't have Tomahawks. That's why we need Tomahawks. But the United States is a very strong production, and the United States has Tomahawks and other missiles, very strong missiles, but they can have our thousands of drones.
CBS News White House reporter Willie James Inman is live from West Palm Beach. So, Willie James, will a swap be happening, and what else came of this meeting?
Hey there, Jules. Good to be with you from West Palm Beach, Florida, where the president will spend the weekend at his Florida home. This is a wait-and-see moment in terms of a potential arms deal that seemed to be taking place in real time there in that meeting. Certainly, President Zelenskyy wanting those Tomahawk missiles in large part because they could help Ukraine in its fight against Russia. Ukraine would be able to attack deep into Russian territory. Of course, the Russians would view that as an escalation, but that is certainly part of the discussion that happened there in that room, whether or not the U.S. would get behind being able to allow Ukraine to not only use those missiles, but also get their hands on them. Now, the president mentioned that the U.S. has advanced weapons of its own, including fighter jets. He also said that the U.S. needs those Tomahawk missiles to defend itself. So that's the big topic of conversation on the table. On top of that, the president was asked about whether or not essentially he was being played by Russian President Vladimir Putin, whether or not Putin was trying to buy more time. And the president said that it was possible, but he also noted that both Putin and Zelenskyy seem to want to make a deal to end this war. Now, of course, Zelenskyy in the room basically said that that is not Putin's intention. But of course, remember, the president spoke with the Russian leader just yesterday on the phone for about 2.5 hours, where part of that conversation focused on not only the conflict in Ukraine, but a meeting that will be set up between, for now at least, between the Russian president and President Trump in Hungary in the days to come, Jules.
Yeah, let's talk about the timing of these things. We know that Trump has a meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Hungary. That's coming up. So will today's meeting potentially impact Putin's willingness to negotiate?
Well, look, on the table here is the concerns for Zelenskyy, and he mentioned as much. He said that he was looking to get security guarantees. So we, of course, know that Putin and Trump had that meeting in Alaska, the Alaska summit. It didn't really get these two warring nations to the table. It didn't get a Putin-Zelenskyy summit. Those are the two leaders that you really need to have in the room to talk this war and talk about ending this war, to talk together and talk through that. Certainly, Zelenskyy being able to attempt to get President Trump to his side could certainly draw some concerns from the Russians, especially when it comes to those Tomahawk missiles, those long-range missiles that the U.S., if it agrees, would be able to give them. It would certainly help with that conflict. So it's anyone's guess in terms of what is in Putin's head. But today, the clear focus for the president of Ukraine is to get President Trump on his side, to get that continued support from the U.S. and to try to put pressure on the Russians to bring President Putin to the table of peace. And President Trump seemingly playing mediator in this instance, working to bring both leaders together, speaking to both leaders and saying that the Middle East conflict that he was able to help solve, help to bring a resolution there, that this could be some momentum going in from that situation to this situation, this conflict that has really bedeviled his presidency since he took office for his second term earlier this year, Jules.
Willie James Inman. Willie James, thanks so much. All right, let's talk about those Tomahawk missiles. They were first used in Operation Desert Storm back in 1991. They have a reach of more than 1,000 miles. They're 20 feet long and weigh 3,000 pounds each. CBS News chief foreign affairs correspondent and Face the Nation host Margaret Brennan explains how those missiles could reshape the landscape of the war for Ukraine.
President Zelenskyy has said himself that longer range capabilities are his focus. So whether it's Tomahawks or other weaponry, and by the way, don't forget the importance of U.S. intelligence sharing in order to make that weaponry more effective. That's his laundry list, including increasing just basic systems within the F-16 fighters U.S. already provided.
At the White House, President Trump remained non-committal on sending Ukraine the long-range Tomahawk missiles needed to strike deeper into Russia. He met with Volodymyr Zelenskyy today after his more than 2-hour call with Putin about the war on Ukraine on Thursday. We're joined now by Charles Kupchan, senior fellow at the Council on Foreign Relations. Charles, good to be with you again. On these Tomahawks, what impact, let's say America gave them all to Ukraine, what impact would that have?
You know, these are quite long-range weapons. They can hit Moscow and beyond. They carry a punch. So the costs would go up to the Russian population and to Putin. It would change Putin's cost-benefit analysis. Is this some sort of game changer? No, there is no single game changer. I think it's an arrow in Trump's quiver. And my own view is if Trump's going to get a deal out of Putin, he's going to have to apply a lot more pressure than just tomahawks. I don't think we had a decision today on the tomahawks because he wants to hold that in reserve when he meets with Putin in this upcoming meeting in Budapest, saying, hey, I need you to make a deal or I may well transfer these long-range weapons.
We had a meeting in Alaska. I was there. And now there's a meeting in Budapest. What does this tell you about the state of things, and what do you think could come out of such a meeting?
Listen, John, I mean, you were in Alaska. Trump and Putin have met or talked over a half dozen times. His special envoy, Steve Witkoff, keeps going to Moscow. They have good conversations. What has Trump gotten out of all of this negotiating? Nothing, nada, zippo. Every night, the Russians continue to bomb Ukraine. One can only hope that in the conversation that Trump and Putin had this week, Trump had some signal that that Putin is ready to change his way, to make some concessions here. I don't yet see it, but let's hope for the best. Let's hope that Trump can pull a rabbit out of the hat when he meets with Putin in Hungary.
Charles, bring Europe on stage here, NATO on stage. What role have they taken, and where do they fit in this narrative?
You know, they have really picked up the slack that Trump has left by backing away from giving Ukraine more economic and military support. The Europeans are now buying American weapons. They're increasing economic support to Ukraine. But I think in the end of the day, if we're going to get a deal here, Trump has to step up and say, hey, I'm going to help Ukraine until the job is done. You know, Putin isn't going to stop until he runs into a stopping force. And I think Biden got it right by giving Ukraine what it needed to defend itself, but he dropped the ball on diplomacy. Trump does the diplomacy, but he dropped the ball on helping Ukraine. He's got to help Ukraine, keep the diplomatic door open, and he may well get across the finish line.
Hello, everyone. I'm Major Garrett in Washington. Let me welcome you to The Takeout. Let's talk about Tomahawk missiles. The United States invented them in the 1980s when Cold War tensions with the then Soviet Union ran high. The Tomahawk has a range of 1,000 to 1,500 miles, flies about 100 feet off the ground, and was designed to evade Soviet air defenses of that time. It was then another lethal chess piece in the Armageddon arms race. Tomahawks serve another purpose now, as weapons, for example, against Houthis in Yemen. Easily more than 200 have been fired at them in the past 2 years. Also, a Navy submarine fired 30 at Iran's Fordo nuclear facility as part of Operation Midnight Hammer in June. The U.S. fires most Tomahawks from ships or submarines. There is a Tomahawk land version, though its testing and platforms are not nearly as developed as those in the U.S. Navy. This brings us to Ukraine. President Zelenskyy, who met with President Trump at the White House today, very much wants Tomahawks. A map shows why. Ukrainian drones can and have hit Russian infrastructure targets, but missiles with a range of up to 1,500 miles open vastly more of Russia to potential attack. Tomahawks are very hard to detect, harder still to destroy in flight. As a weapon to punish or deter, Tomahawks would give Ukraine many more options than it has now. Trump has been coy about providing Tomahawks. That coyness, which may harden into resolve, has led Russian President Vladimir Putin back to talking with Trump. Hence this conversation that sprouted this week about another Trump-Putin summit soon in Hungary. Transparently, it appears, a Russian effort to delay and possibly short-circuit deliveries of Tomahawks from whatever source, U.S. or others. Now, about the possibility of Ukraine being able to strike deep within Russia today, Trump was the picture of coyness. Listen.
Would your administration allow Ukrainians to strike deep into Russia?
We're going to be talking about that. That's something we'll be talking about. You're right. It's an escalation, but we'll be talking about that.
Talking, as we all know, is not the same as doing. And Zelenskyy craves shipments, not words. For more on all this, we turn to Willie James Inman in West Palm Beach, Florida, where the president will be spending the weekend. Willie James, great to see you. Lots to dissect in terms of the Trump-Zelenskyy interaction. We have been schooled in the art of demeanor evaluation, so let's start there.
Hey there, Major. Good to be with you from West Palm Beach, Florida. Well, it certainly was an interesting meeting. Both leaders sitting down at the table is a huge contrast to what we saw earlier this year when that Oval Office meeting between Zelenskyy, the president, and the vice president just spiraled out of control. Now, of course, top of mind for Zelenskyy is getting security guarantees from the United States and getting those Tomahawk missiles. That long-range capability could perhaps help change the calculus of this war. But, of course, that is certainly something that is on the table, but not something that is necessarily approved by the President of the United States. And he mentioned himself that this could potentially escalate things, and the Russians could certainly see things that way. But nonetheless, Zelenskyy pushing forward after this over 2-hour phone call between President Putin and President Trump, where they agreed to not only meet again, but discuss the ending of the war. Zelenskyy is trying to put forward his needs and his wants to make sure that his country is supported, while President Putin is perhaps playing games, some experts could warn, with President Trump. And Trump was asked about that exact instance, if President Putin was trying to buy time, and he said that that was possible, but he also said that Putin and Zelenskyy both want peace, even though Zelenskyy said that is certainly something that President Putin does not want.
Zelensky's demeanor was important in that meeting as well. I want to play for our audience sound from the Ukrainian president directed at President Trump. Let's listen.
My congratulations with your successful ceasefire in the Middle East.
Thank you.
Yeah, and you did it. And I think this is the momentum to finish Russia's war against Ukraine. I think that, yes, we understand that Putin is not ready. I think not ready, but I think that I'm confident that with your help, we can stop this war.
Clearly, the Ukrainian president complimenting President Trump and soliciting what he hoped to get back, which was some yes agreements. And that fusion there is something that the Ukrainian president clearly wanted to achieve.
Yeah, that's right, Major. I think he learned from his past interaction, as I mentioned earlier this year, that Oval Office meltdown, if you can call it. Certainly, President Zelenskyy has learned from that. He's learned from other world leaders that you really have to compliment President Trump to perhaps soften him up a little bit to get what you want. In this case, he wants some major arms from the U.S. for his nation to further push back against that Russian aggression.
Willie James Inman, West Palm Beach, Florida. As always, thank you, sir. I'm joined now by former United States Ambassador to Ukraine, Bill Taylor. Bill, always a pleasure to have you. Help my audience understand the Tomahawks, the potential difference they could make, and whether they need to come from the U.S. or possibly some other source.
Major, you bring up a good point. President Trump talked about limited number. I'm not sure there are limited numbers. I think actually, as you pointed out, we've been manufacturing these and actually using them since the 80s. Been a lot made, and a lot have been exported. So there are other nations that have them in their inventories, and those could be, if President Trump were to say go, that could help it as well. Just the threat, just the possibility of providing those Tomahawk weapons to the Ukrainians has apparently, as you just reported, gotten Putin's attention. Asked him for, he requested this phone call yesterday because he's worried about Tomahawk. So this has a lot of pressure. This can be pressure on Putin.
And as I mentioned, the value is not just to attack, but to deter, to say we have them, and you should be aware of that. That possibly, if it were to happen, and it hasn't happened yet, not entirely balance things, but give something Ukraine doesn't currently possess to send a signal to Russia.
You're exactly right. It's two things. One, it can disrupt. Those kinds of strikes deep into Russia can disrupt attacks from Russia into Ukraine. But also, after some kind of cessation of fire, there needs to be the deterrent that you're talking about. And if the Ukrainians have that capability, and Putin knows they've got, that's a deterrence. That's what deterrence is.
How would you say, and how would you characterize, Bill, the atmosphere right now, Ukraine and the Trump administration?
As you've pointed out, much better. Much better. They've actually, it sounds like they respect each other. Right. It sounds like there's some good conversations going on there. President Zelenskyy has recognizes that he needs the United States, he needs Putin, but he also recognizes at the same time that they need to put together their own capabilities. The Europeans are the same place. Europeans know that their Americans may not be here forever, but they need us now. They need the Americans right now. They need to be developing their own capabilities, defense industrial, military capabilities, and so they're working in parallel.
One other thing the president raised today, and he talked about it throughout the week, that India, according to what he said, will no longer purchase Russian oil. We don't know if that's a fact, but the president is asserting that. That's another pressure point.
A big pressure point. Pressure on Putin is going to be key, and we've already talked about the Tomahawk pressure. The money flowing into the Russian economy, into the Russian treasury, that's keeping the war going, comes from oil and gas exports. And if the Indians, who are either the first or second largest purchaser of Russian oil, if they go down, if they stop or go down, that has a big effect on the revenues going and has an effect then on Putin's ability to push the war.
The Kremlin always puts out its own statement about these phone calls between Putin and Trump. In its summary yesterday, it said, Tomahawks would not change the contour of the battlefield at all. That tells me they're assuming that the ground-based firing of Tomahawks is at least some period of time away, because as I mentioned, those capabilities are less well-developed than sea-based deployment of Tomahawks. Or it could just be a flat-out lie. But the one thing the Kremlin did say is any Tomahawks in Ukraine would fundamentally alter the future of U.S.-Russia relations. How do you translate that? How do you interpret that?
I pay very little attention to what the Kremlin says. Very little. The relationship is going to be determined on how this war ends. If President Trump puts the pressure on Putin to end this war, like they're talking about doing, then the relations can develop after that. Right now, there are no big relations.
None at all. Ambassador William Taylor, always a pleasure. Bill, it's great to have you. Thank you so very much.
In fact, before I do that, let me just ask the President to say a few words. Thank you, President.
Pleasure. Glad to meet you again, Mr. President. Thank you very much for the invitation. Again, my congratulations with your successful ceasefire in the Middle East.
Thank you.
Yeah, and you did it. And I think this is a momentum to finish Russia's war against Ukraine. I think that, yes, we understand that Putin is not ready. I think not ready, but I think that I'm confident that with your help, we can stop this war. And we really need it. We see that they don't have successful steps on the battlefield, and it's good. I think that their army is weak now, but a lot of losses. They have a lot of losses and in economy and people, and I think this is a very important moment. And I wanted to thank you, Mr. President, after our phone calls. Yesterday I had a good opportunity to meet with the big American energy companies, and they're ready to help us. Yes, after all these attacks on our infrastructure, Russian attacks, and etc. And I had also meetings, thanks to your team. We have meetings with a good military companies. We spoke about air defense, and I want to share it after with details where we are. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Very good. And I think it looks beautiful in his jacket.
Yeah?
It's a beautiful. I hope people notice. It's a good. It's actually very stylish. I like it.
President Trump.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Under the Biden administration, the White House was fearing of a possible escalation. They were not allowing the Ukrainians to strike into Russia, fearing of this escalation.
Yeah.
Would your administration allow Ukrainians to strike deep into Russia?
We're going to be talking about that. That's something we'll be talking about. You're right. It's an escalation, but we'll be talking about that.
Mr. President, Mr. President Zelenskyy joined you in Hungary to meet President Putin.
Because it's a leader that we like. We like Viktor Orban. He likes him. I like him. It's a country that's a safe country. Done a very good job. He's been a very good leader in the sense of running his country. He doesn't have a lot of the problems that other countries have. And so we've decided that we'll be going to be with Viktor Orban, and he will, I think he'll be a very good host.
President Trump. President Trump. President Trump. President Trump.
Hungary, yeah. We're doing Hungary, yeah.
With Putin, is it a trilateral meeting, or is it just you and Putin?
To be determined, but I would say most likely it's going to be a double meeting. It'll be a double meeting, but we will have the President, Zelenskyy, in touch. There's a lot of bad blood with the two presidents, and I'm not speaking out of turn when I say it. It's a very difficult situation. You know, we just settled the war, and after thousands of years, I guess. People say anywhere from 500 to 3,000 years, and I was in rooms, as you saw, because you were with me, a lot of you were with me last week, with leaders that didn't like each other, but they were able to get along. These two leaders do not like each other, and we want to make it comfortable for everybody. So one way or the other, we'll be involved in threes, but it may be separated.
President Trump, Mr. President, President Trump.
Was he what? Where are you from?
From Ukraine. He actually had a
Okay, good.
conversation with me.
Good, yeah.
What if Mr. President Putin doesn't agree to peace in Hungary? What do you do then? Do you have...
Well, let's see what happens. I mean, you know, what if? I think he will. I think that President Putin wants to end the war, or I wouldn't be talking this way. I think he wants to end the war. I spoke to him yesterday for 2.5 hours. We went through a lot of details. He wants to get it ended. I think that President Zelenskyy wants to get it ended. Now we have to get it done.
President Trump, Kara Castronova from Lindell TV. And although I love asking you questions, today my question is for President Zelenskyy
Sure.
of Ukraine.
Go ahead, please.
Thank you. Our President Zelenskyy, President Trump, just brokered a peace deal in the Middle East that all Americans, both sides of the aisle, are very proud of. But to meet that deal, both sides had to make concessions. Our president has stuck out his neck in many ways to make a peace deal for your war as well. What specific concessions are you willing to make to end this war with Russia? Will you give up joining NATO? Americans have foreign war fatigue, and our president, as he said, we need our tomahawks too.
To me?
Yes, you, President Zelenskyy.
Thank you very much.
That's some question, right?
So many questions in one. Thank you very much for your question. First of all, I think we need to sit and speak. The second point, we need ceasefire. Even now, you see in the Middle East, it's very difficult to hold ceasefire. Everywhere, in every war, it's very difficult. We want peace. Putin doesn't want. That's why we need pressure on him. We will speak with President today what we need. We understand what we need to push Putin to negotiation table. And as I said previously, so we are ready to speak in any kind of format, bilateral, trilateral, doesn't matter. Matter just peace. This is important. And we don't speak about NATO or NATO. For Ukrainians, it's very important. Of course, it's our decisions of allies to decide where we are.
But are you willing to give
Yes,
up
but
joining
the
NATO?
most important thing for people in Ukraine, which are under each day's attacks, to have really strong security guarantees. NATO is the best, but weapon is very important. Allies on our side is very important. And between us, for us, bilateral security guarantees between me and President Trump is very important. I don't know, we didn't speak with details about it, but this is the most important document because the United States is very strong.
Sir, President Trump, you are the middleman right now, hoping to end this conflict. Who is doing a better job negotiating, President Zelenskyy or President Putin?
I think they're both doing a great job in that sense. We have to get it done. We've got to take some of the hatred of each other. You know, they don't like each other. I say that in front of President Zelenskyy, but I say it in front of President Putin too. They have tremendous bad blood. It really is what is holding up, I think, a settlement. I think we're going to get it done, and we have to make it long-lasting. As I said in the Middle East, everlasting, right? Everlasting. And the Middle East is a much more complicated situation. You know, we had 59 countries involved, and every one of them agreed. And it's, you know, it's sort of amazing. Most people didn't think that was doable. this is going to be something I really believe that's going to get done. I had a very good talk yesterday with President Putin. I think he wants to get it done.
And President Zelensky, right behind you. When we were in Israel with President Trump earlier in the week, we heard a lot about the difference in diplomacy between President Trump and President Joe Biden before him. What do you see as the biggest difference in diplomacy between President Trump and President Biden?
President Trump has a big chance now to finish this war. President Biden now is not the president, so he doesn't have a chance to finish this war. And President Trump is really showed for the world that he can manage ceasefire in Middle East, and that's why I hope that he will do this, and we will also have such big success. For Ukraine, it's a big chance, and I hope that President Trump can manage it.
I would say the biggest difference is one is extremely competent, and the other one is grossly incompetent.
Sir, what's going to happen if the United States is in a conflict and we need the Tomahawks? Do we have enough?
That's the problem. We need Tomahawks, and we need a lot of other things that we've been sending over the last 4 years to Ukraine. We've been, we gave them a lot. Now we have a different situation. We send it to the European Union. They pay for it and all that, and they have plenty of money. But it's beyond the money. We need Tomahawks, and we need a lot of other weapons that we're sending to Ukraine. One of the reasons we want to get this war over is exactly that. It's not easy for us to give. You're talking about massive numbers of very powerful weapons. So that's one of the things we'll be talking about. Hopefully they won't need it. Hopefully we'll be able to get the war over with without thinking about Tomahawks. I think we're fairly close to that. Yeah, go ahead.
President,
yeah, please.
Just you to understand. So for today, of course, we want to finish this war, but the war is another technological war. You don't use just Tomahawks. If you want to target a military goal, you need thousands of drones. It goes together with such missiles. Ukraine has such thousands of our production drones, but we don't have Tomahawks. That's why we need Tomahawks. But United States is a very strong production, and the United States has Tomahawks and other missiles, very strong missiles, but they can have our thousands of drones. That's why where we can work together, where we can strengthen American production.
And so just so that I understand, so you're suggesting kind of a trade. If President Trump okays Tomahawk missiles to help you launch
yes, it's about Russia, military goals. It's only about military goals.
Right, but then you would authorize some kind of an exchange where
yes, of course.
The US
yes, we have proposition. We have big proposition with our drones.
President Trump, I don't mean to be brokering an arms deal here, but is that something that you would be interested in, Ukrainian drones?
We are, yeah, we would. We have a lot of drones right now. We build our own drones, but we also buy drones from others, and they make a very good drone. I mean, drone warfare has really come to the fore over the last couple of years because of this war. I will say, there's nothing like the jets. We knocked out a lot of drones in Israel. We were knocking them out for Israel, and we were doing it with extremely fast and powerful jets, following the drones and knocking the hell out of them. So, we know a lot about the drones, and we know a lot about the great jets, the great ones. The ones, and the B-52s, which were totally they were stealth. They were undetectable. So we have a lot of different weapons. And, I have an obligation also, though, to make sure that we're completely stocked up as a country, because you never know what's going to happen. In war and peace, right? You never know what's going to happen. So we're going to be talking about Tomahawks, and would much rather have them not need Tomahawks. Would much rather have the war be over, to be honest, because, we're in it to get the war over. We're selling a lot of different types of weapon, as you know, to the European Union. We're not in it for that. We're in it to get it over. We're losing thousands of people a week, thousands of people, Russian, Ukrainian, and mostly soldiers. Mostly soldiers. But we're in it to see that end. And if we can end quickly, and I think we can. I mean, I had a very good talk yesterday. We're going to be talking about it, but I had a very productive talk yesterday with President Putin. We'll see what happens. But the war in the Middle East was far more complicated. We got that one done, and I think we have a good chance. I think President Zelenskyy wants it done, and I think President Putin wants it done. Now all they have to do is get along a little bit.
Can you give us an update on the trade negotiations with China, or perhaps Secretary Beth?
Yeah, I will, and I'm going to let Scott do that. But I think we're doing very well. I think we're getting along with China. China would like to have something. As of this moment, we'll be meeting in a couple of weeks. We'll be meeting in South Korea.
You think
myself.
Will go forward?
I think so. It looks like it's going forward. I think so. They want to meet. We like to meet. I have a very good relationship with President Xi, and we're going to see what happens. But, you know, for years we were taken advantage of by China very badly. We were losing hundreds of billions of dollars a year to China. We really built their military, if you think about it. The kind of money that presidents allowed to be lost to China was just insane. And then when I came into office, as you know, I put very severe tariffs. So we took in hundreds of billions of dollars in my first term from China. Biden let that go because it was so much. He let it continue, but he gave all sorts of exceptions. And by the time you looked at it, Scott, I would say it wasn't the same thing. He would give an exception for anything. If you got up and went out to dinner, he'd give you an exception. So it wasn't the same thing. But I put on very serious tariffs. So we took in hundreds of billions of dollars. And then I left office. The election was rigged. I left office, and that was the story. Now I come back, and we are in a very strong position because of tariffs. We're in a very powerful position because of the fact that we have tariffs. If we didn't have tariffs, we would be in a very weak position. We would be in a weakened state. But with tariffs, we've made hundreds of billions of dollars, not only from China, but from others. And China wants to talk, and we like talking to China. So we have a very good relationship, and we're going to be meeting in South Korea a couple of weeks. And I just got back from a long trip. I'm going on another long trip. And, Scott, do you want to say a few words on that, please?
Yes, sir. So the entire relationship stems from the great respect that the two leaders have for each other. China did a substantial, unprovoked escalation last week. We were unable to get in touch with them since then. It's been IMF World Bank Week. They have had working level people here who there have been meetings. The Vice Premier, who is my counterpart, and I will be speaking this evening at around 8:30, 9 o'clock. And then he and I and a delegation will meet in Malaysia probably a week from tomorrow to prepare for the two presidents to meet. So I think that things have de-escalated. We hope that China will show the respect that we have shown them. And I am confident that President Trump, because of his relationship with President Xi, will be able to get things back on a good course. Is the hope for that meeting with you and President Xi some kind of trade deal then? Or
could be. Look, I think we're in a very strong position. I think we're in a very strong position. We're getting, as you know, as of November 1st, I could move it up if I wanted, a 100% tariff over and above what we get now. So that would make it about 157%. And China doesn't want that, and they want to talk, and we're talking. And I think we'll make a deal that will be good for both. I think we will do something. But you have to understand, we never got anything from China. It was a one-way street. For many years, for decades, it was a one-way street. And they became rich because of the United States. And frankly, presidents that, let's be nice, they didn't know. They just didn't know. They didn't understand what was happening to them. But I understood it. I understood it long before I ran for politics. I used to watch in amazement at how stupid our country was, how stupid they were. And we're not stupid anymore. And that includes with the European Union. That includes with Japan and South Korea. All we want to do is be treated fairly. But the fairly is hundreds of billions and even trillions of dollars coming into the United States. And it's our national security is secure because of tariffs. If we didn't have tariffs, we would have no national security. So it's very important.
Will you seek China's help in ending the war in
I'll be discussing that, but I'd love to see it ended before that. I mean, I think we have a chance of ending the war quickly if flexibility is shown on behalf. And again, we're not losing people. The United States is not. We're not losing people. We're not spending money. We're getting paid for the, ammunition and missiles and everything else that we're sending to the European Union, but to NATO. But it's very similar. If you look at the countries, I mean, it's very similar. And we just made a very fair trade deal with the European Union, and what we wanted, and we made a very good deal with NATO too. They pay for all of this. That's not what we're in this for. We're in it to save thousands of lives every week. Thousands and thousands of lives. That's why we're in it. And I think we have a very good chance of bringing this war to a conclusion.
And honestly, an excellent job. I think that a lot of people could agree to that.
Thank you.
I'm speaking as someone who lost my father in a war, so I know the human cost. What would your advice be to American leaders, to world leaders, to neocons, to TV hosts who often speak about conflict in abstract or strategic terms rather than the human cost and the human terms?
Look, my only statement is we have to get together. It's a very small group of people. It's the president, and the president. Okay, 3 presidents. And I'm the mediator president. And I'm mediating not an easy situation. It should be easy, but it's a lot easier when people understand each other, and when they get together, and when they like each other. We don't necessarily have that situation as far as like is concerned. Maybe it can turn around. Maybe it can. But in the meantime, we'll have them keep a little bit of distance, and we're going to see if we can get it done. This is number 9, okay? This will be number 9 for me. I've solved 8, including the Middle East. I've solved 8. This, I thought, would have been among the easiest. We solved, President Putin mentioned yesterday Armenia, all of the different wars. He said it was amazing but the big one that he was surprised that we were able to settle was the Middle East. He thought it was incredible. He was very generous in that sense. This should be something we're able to settle, and I think we will be able to settle. Brian?
On that note, you will go down as the peacemaker, no doubt, and you will resolve this war.
Well, we resolved 8 others. It's funny how people say that. If you get this one, every time I do one, they forget about that one. I solved 8 wars. Go to Rwanda and the Congo, talk about India and Pakistan, look at Thailand, look at all of the wars that we solved. And every time I solve one, they say, if you solve the next one, you're going to get the Nobel Prize. I didn't get a Nobel Prize. Somebody got it who's a very nice woman, very nice. I don't know who she is, but she was very generous. So I don't care about all that stuff. I just care about saving lives. But this will be number 9. But every time I solve one, they said, sir, if you solve one more, you're going to be known as a peacekeeper. So to the best of my knowledge, we've never had a president that solved one war. Not one war. Bush started a war. A lot of them start wars, but they don't solve the wars. They don't settle them. And especially when they have nothing to do with us. I guess just about all of these wars had nothing to do with us. But I saved tens of millions of lives. The Prime Minister of Pakistan said, I saved millions of lives in interceding on Pakistan. And you look at Pakistan and India as an example. That would have been a bad one, 2 nuclear nations, right? So I say this. This is pretty much the last one, although I do understand that Pakistan attacked, or there is an attack going on with Afghanistan. That's an easy one for me to solve if I have to solve it. In the meantime, I have to run the USA, but I love solving wars. You know why? I like stopping people from being killed, and I've saved millions and millions of lives, and I think we're going to have success with this war.
Topics and questions, and so in any way, thank you so much. Thanks to the United States team. Spoke about air defense, and it's important for us. Even now when we speak with you, there's a lot of drones in Ukraine. They attack our civilians, attack our families. our children. We decided that we will work more with productions and etc. And yes, you know, the question is with all this, you know, lines and orders with time and schedules. You know, this is a very difficult question. So we will try, all our teams will try to manage how to change the order of one country, which systems are ready already with our orders. So it's a difficult process. In any way, this is, I think, positive signal that we will work on it. We understand the number, what we need, and we understand where to get it. And it's a pity we understand the challenges, how to get it. Then we spoke about also about long range, of course, and I want not to make statements about it. We decided that we don't speak about it because nobody wants, you know, I mean, this United States doesn't want escalation and etc. So I mean, this will be out of the questions about it, out of the answers. Sorry about it. And also we spoke about Budapest. The President shared with me their dialogue with Russian side. So we understand for us all the signals from Russians. They are not new, but we count on the President, on his pressure on Putin to stop this war.
Volodymyr Alexandrovich. Mr. President, President Trump now has on 4 different occasions set deadlines for Putin to enter into either a ceasefire or agree to meet with you. And Putin has not met those deadlines. Do you still trust that President Trump is serious about taking action against Russia?
We trust the United States. We trust President that he wants to finish this war. And it's difficult, it's very tough solution. It's understandable why. And for us, it's essential, our land and our country, because it's a part of our independence, not just, you know, just meters. Yeah, and this is very important. It's about our sovereignty. So we think that that it was also difficult to manage the situation in the Middle East, and if President was successful in it, I hope that he will manage this situation.
Володимир Олександрович, я запитаю українською, бо вибачте, я запитаю.
Будь ласка, будь ласка.
Please don't forget to introduce yourself.
Can you confirm that you just completed a phone call with European leaders? Who were on this call and what did you discuss?
I'm so sorry that I'm late. You waited, sorry. And we had just after meeting with President and his team, we had now conversation with our strategic partners. I had phone calls, common phone call with our group, the main leaders of coalition of the villains. It was both presidents, Ursula von der Leyen and Antonio Costa of EU and Commission, and then it was President of Finland, Alex Stubb. It was Prime Minister of Norway, Jonas, and it was also Prime Minister of United Kingdom, Keir Starmer. Thanks to Giorgia Meloni, she participated. Thanks to her, and also it was the Secretary of NATO, Mark, and I think that also Prime Minister of Poland, yes, not to forget everybody, all of them are.
You mentioned the drone proposition.
Sorry?
What did you tell them?
No, they, of course, they know the topic. One of the topic what we discussed with President Trump was about security guarantees. We want the United States be a part of security. We count on the leadership of the United States. We spoke about it. And of course, but coalition of the willingness is our main European partners, and of course, United States. We spoke about it, and we spoke our conversation about air defense is very important. You know, when drones attacks, it's useful to speak. It's difficult, and we spoke also about program Pearl. You know that United States President, they opened for us this corridor for Europe, for NATO, and the deliveries came from these countries, and also from others, but from these countries. So Europe pay for this, and then give us weapons. So we spoke about it.
CBS.
President Trump sounded doubtful that Ukraine could regain all the territory that Russia occupies, even though he has said the opposite recently. What do you think he believes?
Of course, the question of territory is a very sensitive question, very sensitive, and the most difficult, really, question. My position, I know that Russia has another position. They want to, they really want to occupy everything. But now they want, before any kind of ceasefire, make a deal about land, about our territories, and etc. Our position is that, look, first we need ceasefire, so we need to sit and speak and to understand where we are. And I think this is the most important first step. That is where I think that President understands that the most difficult questions will be in any kind of negotiations, in any format of negotiation, will be the territory. It's a pity, but the territory of Ukraine. So that's.
Mr. President, DW News. Thank you. How does President Trump view Ukrainian strikes on Russia's oil sites? And is Ukraine coordinating this with the U.S.?
No, really, we didn't speak about it. We didn't speak about our answers on strikes, airstrikes on Ukrainian energy system. Our answers to Russian side. No, we didn't speak about it.
Why do you think Vladimir Putin is avoiding you? Is he afraid of you?
Sorry?
Why do you think Vladimir Putin is avoiding you? Is he afraid of you?
President Trump is not a secret. I think that he said it. I think he said that Putin hates me.
Do you hate him?
But I think, look, I think it's strange if they try to kill all of us, so I will have another attitude to this person. I have the same attitude to this man.
Mr. President,
Not sin? Це не про почуття. Це не про почуття. Для мене і для кожного українця вони на нас напали, і тому це для нас ворог. Вони не хочуть зупинятися, це ворог. Це навіть не про те, що хтось когось ненавидить. Хоча, безумовно, ми ненавидимо ворога. Безумовно. Didn't have enough time to speak about sanctions. Sorry, we had long meeting. Thanks again to American side, but we didn't have enough time to speak about everything. But we decided that we will have some phone calls in some, I don't know, week or days.
What man? President, table.
Please can you confirm you did not speak one moment about Tomahawk missiles? Please can you give us any figures you have on drones being sent to the US in terms of yesterday?
Sorry, what about Tomahawks?
Колеги, може допоможіть.
Чи згадував він про Томагавки?
Чи був хоч один момент, коли ви говорили про Tomahawks?
Yeah, we spoke about Tomahawks. I'm open with it. We want very much. Yes, and the president already, I think, that American side said that. Look, we have to understand because we don't have. I mean, we need them, and this is the position of American side for today. But nobody. I mean, nobody canceled this dialogue, this topic. Yes. So we just we have to work on it more.
Is there any specific number?
I can't share such details. Ask American side. It's your weapon.
Newsmax, please. Newsmax, please.
Nana Sajaya, Newsmax. Mr. President, in your conversations with the White House, is White House offering you any concessions, any territorial concessions?
we understand Russian proposition, and this you remember these swaps of territories and etc. I'm not sure that Russia changed their position. I'm not sure because we didn't have any kind of meetings to understand positions of both sides. So nobody can finish this without Ukraine. You know, that's why it's a sensitive issue, as I said, about territories. You will see it will be a very difficult moment in these negotiations, but I'm sure that we will have negotiations.
Вибачте, хотів українською запитати, бо ми зараз транслюємося в Україні. У нас же і без томагавків достатньо американської далекобійної зброї, яка могла б у відповідь наносити удари і захищати населення людей. Те, про що говорять і пишуть дуже багато у Вашингтоні, що начебто є проблеми з дозволами, є проблеми з використанням. Чи дійсно це так? Чи ви порушуєте це питання? І наскільки для України зараз важливо добитися, домогтися того, щоб хоча б цю заборону зняли, якщо вона є?
Дивіться, Україна, в принципі, за ці роки стала достатньо сильною, так, але ми не можемо сьогодні боротись своїм системами ППО проти, наприклад, проти балістичних ракет. І так само на такі удари балістичними ракетами, яких просто наша енергетика не витримує, там дуже складно, безумовно, дуже складно. На це потрібен pressure, тиск. Дуже потрібен тиск. Я вважаю, що пакет відповідної зброї – це такий тиск. Ми про це говорили ще півроку назад, і ще до президента Трампа, до речі. Ми про це говорили. Для того, щоб деякі проводити операції суто по військових цілях, вам потрібна сукупність факторів. Передусім, це використання разом і дронів, і деяких інших видів зброї. І нам дечого не вистачає, хоча свої інструменти з'являються, їх немало, але ми розуміємо час. Час грає точно не на користь людей, бо це час війни. They will work, our teams on drones, they will work, I don't want to go to further, but even before my meeting, my team will be here some days in Washington, and they work with the United States. So we are open for these propositions, and the teams, they work, really work, and I think that United States will have some of types of drones.
Are you worried that Putin добився тим, що отримав зустріч з Трампом?
Будь ласка. Sky News, please.
Yeah. In any way, these leaders, and really you, big supporter of Ukraine, and European leaders, I didn't call them to have this support. I know we have this support. It's our way of our strategic partnership. When we call each other, we have a lot of phone calls and messaging. We live in this, really, yes. But I just wanted to tell you that I knew before my meeting with President Trump that I will have connection with politics.
Can you repeat that, please?
No, everything is important. Look, we are in the war. No. United States support is very important. President Trump's support is important. European leaders, so we don't want to divide it. You know, a lot of circumstances and a lot of people want to divide. And we are not on this side. We are on the side to have unity between Europe and the United States. It's important, vital for us.
ABC, please. ABC, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mary Bruce with ABC News.
Please.
Mr. President, thank you. What do you think Vladimir Putin wants to get out of this upcoming meeting with the president? Does he want a deal like Trump said?
I don't know.
Or is he just buying time? And do you think that Putin convinced Trump not to give you the tomahawks that you're seeking?
I think that Russians are afraid about tomahawks, really afraid because it's a strong weapon. And they know what we have, what kind of weapon we have, our production, and they understand that combination with tomahawks, because we speak about it. We don't speak about tomahawks like tomahawks. We need combination. And that's why they're afraid of this combination. They understand what we can do. That's why they do a lot of different steps and a lot of very positive messages not to our side, of course. Yes, that's what they do because they're afraid of it. And I don't know what you asked about.
And leaving today, are you more or less optimistic that you are going to get those tomahawks?
I'm realistic.
President Trump said you should stop fighting now and declare victory.
Sorry?
President Trump said you and President Putin should stop fighting now and declare victory where you are, both declare victory. Do you have comment on this? He just posted this.
What
he just posted the truth.
He said you should stop fighting, declare victory.
President Trump said you and President Putin should stop fighting where you are and to both declare victory. Do you have comment?
We have, for our nations and for such circumstances where we are, what we have, and against such big country which is against us, I think we have to stop where we are. And he is right. The President is right, and we have to stop where we are. This is important, to stop where we are, and then to speak. If one man doesn't want to, there's other people, other groups will meet and speak what to do, how to manage, how to have the real steps to real peace.
Is this
lasting peace? This is important. But I agree with President. Yes, both sides have to stop. But between us, it's about Putin because we didn't begin this war.
President Zelenskyy, would you be willing to attend talks?
Yes, yes.
I'm open, as I said, to bilateral, to trilateral, and I don't know if we have some other formats. I'm open for any kind of formats which can bring us closer to peace.
So you would like to go to Budapest?
Would you be willing to go to Budapest, sir?
Okay, one last question was BBC. Sorry,
BBC?
We have to wrap it up.
BBC.
Yes, here.
That's good that we discuss security guarantees and that the United States is not against this topic. And the European part is almost ready. It's almost on the paper. It's really ready what delivered can be from Europeans. We discussed it from the point that we need United States security guarantees. We need United States because only United States now speak with Russia. Only President Trump, he has dialogue with Russia. And this is very important. We need strong security guarantees because I'm afraid, and I think that our nation is afraid, that if we will have ceasefire, we need security guarantees from the United States that Putin will not come again with aggression. That's why we need it. I think that...
Thank you so much. I'm sorry. Sir, did you commit to going to Budapest?